man. Dang.
I'm
Thanks.
gonna try one more time now. That was a test.
Sure, no worries.
Please forgive my negligence.
No, no, good.
All right. Everybody, I just want to introduce, it's my pleasure to introduce a visionary storyteller whose passion for cinematic creativity and horror and comic books continues to push boundaries. Writer and director Jonathan Chance. Known for his bold storytelling and distinct visual style, Jonathan has captivated audience with his ability to blend emotion, mystery, horror, and grit into unforgettable worlds. Today, he returns with his next thrilling chapter in his creative journey. Never by Night, Volume 2, a project that promises to elevate his storytelling to new heights. Get ready for a new, powerful, and immersive experience from one of today's most exciting creative voices, Jonathan Chance. Pleasure to have you, and thank you for being here today.
Oh man, thank you so much, man. What an introduction that was. Thank you.
But yeah, I've been following you from the time that I discovered you from Cover the Dead with Lime, and I was captivated with the mystique of your writing, the dark places that you go with it. You
Yeah.
know, a lot of comics are bubbly, they're action, but they're fluff sometimes, and I feel like you want to go to a realm where, like, we're on Earth, and what if there was a darker element to it? And I feel
Yes.
like when I read your stories, it takes me to that disturbing place that some people don't want to go,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
also safe from reading from a story side, like someone that's willing to go there for you, you know, if that makes sense. And
Yeah, it's yeah. You go, man. Sorry. I didn't really
that was
interrupt.
I mean, no, we need to mute that. But also, story after story since I followed you, I see consistency with having being able to your creativity with being able to take a scenario and making it differently horrifying or unexpected as the story you've written before. And by
Right,
saying so,
right.
I'd like you to delve in a little bit on your process, on your thinking, your imaginative creativity, what inspired you to take it to that level, and like what influences did you have, I guess, that led you to being such a great story writer.
Well, thank you so much. Man, it's difficult to say where all these things kind of began, I guess. I mean, I've been watching horror movies since I was very little. I think there was a distinction early on that you can be terrified by something and yet at the same time know that it's not true, not real. Like when I was watching horror movies from a very young age, so I could enjoy it for what it was for entertainment and be thrilled by like, what is this I'm watching? How did they do that? Even from this very young age, and yet at the same time be scared by it. And I think that's probably like I would like to say that that's what I'm trying to do with my stories. You know, whatever the stories I come up with is to be something that can be an escape to something that could be terrifying, you know, or fantastical, and take you somewhere on a journey. And then before you know it, you're in a completely different realm. You know, each story is something different. That's what I'm trying to do with Never by Night, that series that I'm doing. Um, I think that um, people like an escape, even if it's a scary one, which is interesting. I think people, it's like the roller coaster ride, you know. I want to be scared, and especially Halloween. It seems like everyone around Halloween, even if they're not into horror, they're willing to be it just for that one night, or they're willing to be into it for that month or whatever. You know, it seems it is in the US anyway. Maybe not everywhere.
Oh,
And I want to, yeah, and I want to bring that to people. I want to bring that entertainment to people.
yeah, there's definitely a huge fan base out here too. Around this is one of my favorite times of the year, not just because I'm born on this month, but I just feel like there's a lot of magical you know elements, whether it's mystique, whether it's darkness, or whether it's just because it all stems from imagination, you know. And I
Yes.
think some of the best creativity comes around this time of year. And we have done the interview before for Never by Night Value One, so we are actually
Agreed.
pushing to another um, stage with Value Two here, and I've read it. This time you
Yeah.
have four stories,
Mhm.
and they're actually dynamically different. That's one thing I picked up
Yes.
from them. Um, there's some intensity in some, and there's some like moral compass story in the other, you know, like a
Yeah.
message.
Mhm.
And so each one has its own identity, I would say, almost that you could almost look into your own life with, or some of them are, of course, way out of reality. If hey, well, it always has a what if factor to it. So I would
Yeah.
start with I'm gonna look at my file right quick and look at the first story, which
Right.
is Late Night Host.
Yes.
What was your concept for that one? Like what I guess what type of elements brought you to that? It could be just from blank, you know, canvas in your mind. Who knows?
Yeah, you know
But
what? I like that you said blank canvas there because sometimes stuff just comes to you like a whole. I love it when sometimes stuff can come to me just like literally, well, that's a great idea. Can I have this? Can I have that? And then you can almost have a beginning, middle, and end all at once. I mean, if you're lucky, at least in a rough idea in your mind. Other times, ideas can come from, like what's the crux of this story? Like, what does it revolve around? And then you revolve the tale around that one thing.
yeah.
Um, with one story later on, I'll tell you what that was. But with this particular one, funny enough, came from the title. I just thought, late night hosts, late night hosts. I thought, what if
Hmm.
there was literally a late night host that takes over a body? And he happens to be, it's like the best, it's about to be the best night, day of his life or whatever. And he's been building towards this and he's about to have this, he's been working hard to get to this position and he's going to be this late night host. And I wrote this rough outline of it, begin, middle, and end, about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And then I finally got to making it about 6 months ago, knowing that Halloween was coming quickly and I'd done the other stories, well, most of the other stories, and I needed to get this one done in time. So yeah, this one actually came from the title. So you don't often have that as well. Like the whole story came from the idea just of the title alone.
Right. It
Mhm.
was definitely like a snippet of sci-fi, but most like horror and sci-fi like kind of merged in that
Yeah,
one.
and they say it's almost it's a sci-fi horror, but it's definitely like a body horror. I think it's a body
Yeah,
horror.
like if you're a
When
fan
it
of
comes to
Aliens or The Thing, those
the
type of
thing of
movies.
body snatchers, I think the closest thing is probably something like body snatchers to the extent, although this one goes more psychological and he's at war with himself. And I just like the idea of you know how do you escape that, something that's already inside of you. You can't fight yourself, or you could try, and that's what he tries to do. So that's what's interesting about this horror story. It's an inner horror tale, takes place inside of him, and how do you escape that? So
Yeah, and I'll give the guy credit. He gave it a shot. You know, he gave it his best. He gave it his best foot forward. So I was like,
yeah,
okay, at least he didn't just give in and suck her out. And then
no, he didn't.
his father, the element of his father, that was a strong factor. But it seems like the overpowering elements of reminded me of the influence of the world, like even with celebrities and political figures, like how overpowering those intimidating factors are when they're already too much in power position. Like that story told me that.
Yeah, oh, definitely that. And that's also mentioned. I don't know if you got this as well, but I've said this to a couple of other people. That sorry about the cat meowing. um,
Oh, good.
that it's crazy that the whole Jimmy Kimmel thing just happened of him getting fired and then rehired, but he was fired and again due to political problems, issues, and he is a late night host. And then
Right.
literally when that happened, this had just released like a week or two before. And
Yeah.
it's like, you can't time that, you know? He's a late night
Right.
host. When was the last time you had a story about a political issue with a late night host? I mean, they say stuff, but not to the point of getting fired. And in this case, I love the idea around um, basically people of influence being used for alien invasion. But
Right.
in this case, it's not alien invasion of, alien invasion can sometimes be not taken cheesy or anything like that. But in this case, in a horrific sense, we don't really know anything about them, and there's nothing we can do about it. But what if something like this can happen? And all it would take would be something that could get into a position that is on TV with millions of viewers every night and talking to them, and therefore pushing whatever it's trying to get out there. And then right at the end of the story, it gets even worse than that because it was just using him to get to a bigger host. And we find out what that host is going to be. So, yeah.
And that's what these stories, one thing I know before I move on to the next one is like these can actually be turned into ongoing series. Like each story, like it leaves you with your own imagination to like, oh dang, I really want to know what keeps on going after this happens, but it's over. Like like it's
Yeah.
teased.
Yeah.
And
That
that's a
one
great
definitely
story.
leaves you like, really. Yeah, that one. And the funny thing is, I don't know if you ever got a chance to read Permadeath. I'll show you Permadeath a
I
second.
did.
This was,
Absolutely.
yeah, you
I
did that.
enjoyed
Yeah. So you had that from last year. Um,
yes.
that was with
That
Dead
was
Sky
great.
Publishing. Well, the funny thing is, the big game, the astral projection story at the old people's home was going to be the initial first story on volume 2. And I'd been planning for a while. Like, this is the great thing about making your own horror anthology, is there is a knack. Like, it's like making an album or something. You want them to go in a particular order, and you want, okay, I want that one, and then follow with that one, and then it ends strong, like. So I wanted to have, the big game was going to be the first story on that, because basically in these anthologies, I have bookend stories. So story 1 and story 4 are always the bigger stories. They're about 23 to 30 pages. They could even be, people have said, it could be like a movie or an episode or something like that. It's long enough, but it's moving quickly or whatever. Um,
Right.
so yeah, I needed to make sure that it was a strong story to be the first story on that one, because I didn't have the big game anymore. Because that's the thing, when you work with publishers, they often say, we don't want to share if it's non-exclusive, if it's exclusive. You can't share that story, at least for a few years. So Late Night Host came out of that. I decided to pick that story to do.
Oh, that
So
was a
yeah.
kick ass one. That definitely was. Um
Thank you.
I won't give away too much. There's no spoilers here. You got to actually purchase the book, and it is available on Amazon. For those that may be curious, all you have to do is type "Never by Night" Volume 2, just like I did, and I could actually show you the link before I go into the next story. And
Awesome.
pardon me for my um, I'm still like navigating through this stuff. It's been a while since I've done a interview, so
Mhm.
well when I share screen, there we go. Okay, screen monitors, and there we go. This is the page that I'm speaking about right here on Amazon.
Oh, nice.
Easy to find. I'm getting my copy ASAP. I have my
And you,
volume 1 shown
mhm.
improved, stamped and sealed on photo, and guarantee I will have my volume 2 with my great review. And you could
There's the,
also
yeah.
one right there.
Oh, that's great, dude. Yeah, I'm going to. I would show you a copy of Volume 1, but I was saying in another interview that we ran out at LA Comic Con. We sold
That's
out.
fantastic. I mean, that's
So
great
that,
news, though.
yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna have to get some more in, because there's a signing at the end of the month. We'll get into that later. But yeah, I need to get more copies of that, and I only had about 5 or 6 left of volume 2, but we had more copies of that originally anyways. So, but yeah, so that's what it looks like. If people want to see what it looks like physically, that's what it looks like.
Damn, I should have had mine. Actually, I don't think I put mine away. Hold on. I think I got
Oh, you
mine.
could show volume 1, right? Yeah.
Yep. Let's see. Of course I do. It's right here.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I love those snaps you took of it, actually. There it is, nice. And that cover is, it just feels in my head, it feels iconic.
Oh yeah, very impressive. And there's always
Nice.
like a very a mysterious poem, you know.
Yeah, on the back. Yeah, it's the same poem as the first book, and it's the intro and the outro. And I just like the idea of, like, some haunting kind of poem to lead the readers into the stories,
Yeah,
Um,
I love it.
but yeah, and I think if they order now, you've still got time. You'll get it in time for Halloween, definitely. So if you're feeling in the mood.
That would be good to share with your fellow Halloweeners, or if you have like a gathering, or as a great gift for someone who loves this time of season and year. I think that would be the
Yeah.
perfect gift.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Yeah. It's people love horror anthologies, I think, or at least, people that really like, even stuff from like Tales from the Crypt, Creepshow, even Goosebumps. I mean, it's darker than Goosebumps, but still, you know. Yeah.
Right. And to give credit, I'll say it was illustrated by, I'm hoping I say the name right, Joel
Hmm.
Acetona
Yeah.
Vieira, colored by Ren Spiller, lettered by Adele E. Thalemi. And
Yeah.
now we can delve into Video Man, which was creepy as hell. Remind me of like a 80s. Well, it definitely has to take place in the 80s. And that one, we'll just jump right into it, illustrated by Mike Bogdanovic, colored
I think
by
yeah,
Teresa. I got that wrong, didn't I? Bogdanovic?
no, that dude. I think it's Bogdanovic. I think.
Bogdanovic, yeah,
And
that sounds about
if we're butchering it, we're trying. It's okay.
right. Shout out to Mike Bogdanovic. By Teresa Ciecci, lettered by Micah Myers. Oh shit, that's crazy.
Mike Myers, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's some of my, yeah, one of the two.
it was something
Mika
crazy
Myers.
about this story because I was looking at the artwork. I don't know if you're
Mhm.
familiar with the show Married with Children. Um,
Yes,
Marcy
yes,
her first husband named Steve Darcy, and if you look at the video,
he does. He looks like it. I know he does. I know he does. Yeah,
I
yeah, he
was
does. I was
Steve
like, huh.
Darcy.
What?
Yeah,
But the funny
man,
thing is, he looks like an everyman. I mean, that guy looked like an everyman,
yeah,
And what was the name of the freaking guy from the main guy from Married with Children? What was his
Al
character's name?
Bundy.
Ed Bundy. Al Bundy. Al Bundy.
Yeah,
Um, Again, he just looks like your dad. He just looks like a dad, and this guy is probably a dad. And yeah, I was saying before actually that this actually came from an idea that was based in some reality. So my dad's friend used to have this van, and he'd stack up. I don't know how he did it, but he stacked up all these videos in his car. Sorry, in his
wow,
van, and he'd go around. So I guess people he knew or friends and neighbors and things like that. And you could borrow whatever video he had for like a week. It was either 2 weeks or a week. But I remember thinking, whoa, this is better than a video store because it's not overnight. You get to have it for the whole week. So here's me, like, I remember distinctly getting Big Trouble in Little China. I remember that cool cover.
yeah,
I remember like I definitely got Return of the Living Dead Part 2. Because I know a lot of people don't like Return of the Living Dead Part 2. The first one is better. But the second one, for a kid, I think kids seem to I loved that when I was a kid. And that was probably Monster Squad. But I remember that feeling of being in there like, whoa, look at all these videos. What should we get? Like, we get to choose one video for us, for the kids, and then they got to have one video. So those two kids are kind of loosely based on my brother and me. And I just thought, you know what? There's something kind of there doesn't seem to be many people that did this, but there was this one guy, and I thought, what if there was something morbid about that? What if you had these 5 rules, and that if you don't abide these 5 rules, they can elevate. So from the earliest of rules, don't fuck with him, basically. But if you
Yeah,
don't do this final rule, then you're fucked, basically. So
right.
yeah.
It's like rule number one, and then rule number two, three, four, five. Remember rule number one.
Right. Yeah. So I think
Yeah,
it's pretty creepy, and it's more grounded. This story could happen. I mean, there's someone that could have done that. So, and the funny thing is, I wrote this. Sorry, I made this. This is one of the older stories I held on to, because knowing that I wanted to do this volume, these Never by Night volumes, I held on to some stories, knowing that I don't want to give away all my stories to different anthologies with other publishers. It's one thing to be with a publisher, because a publisher gives you something, gives you some sort of prestige or something, like, great, like, I got published, that's great. But I also don't want to give away all my stories that I can't share them myself then, or I have to wait a while, or I don't have anything new to show people. So I always, before I got even properly into getting with publishers, my whole idea was getting into comics was I'd love to do a horror anthology. So it kind of started with Never by Night, and it's now only just these last couple of years now I'm doing them. But some of the stories I held on to, so Video Van Man is probably a few years old. So
right.
it even, I don't know how old Black Phone is, but I remember when that came out, I was like, dang, it's kind of like my story, but is it? I don't know, not really, but there's a van.
Right.
But that's it. But the whole idea of it being in the 80s and it being a video van, and he keeps it
Yeah.
clean, and he's just a narcissist, but we don't realize how scary he could be or what he's capable of, and then you find out what he is capable of. So yeah, it's still a different tale. But I swear I hadn't seen that movie. So it was like, and then Ice Cream Band came out. There's now one called Ice Cream Man or something. So it's like, I
That's
don't know.
dope.
There's all kinds. I haven't even read that one, but yeah. So you're just like, it's like, well, it's still its own thing. So yeah.
Yeah, I think your stories would fit right in because each on that end it's just different stories. Um,
Yes. Yes.
so I think like
Doesn't matter.
story you have, it would probably be beautiful with the addition that they have on there. But you got your own vault, so it's like
Yeah.
um, Ice Cream Man could kick rocks right now. Yeah, that
Right.
retroness that I felt definitely resonated, being that I come from that era of video renting, the blockbuster time,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
um,
Right.
how left that could go before there were cameras everywhere, how someone could actually pull, such a nefarious act off.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
that was pretty awesome sauce. And we gave the credentials already to that particular story before, delving into it. And the
Yeah.
third story is Now is All Silver Blue. And that's
Hmm.
written by you, of course, illustrated and lettered by both Emilio Utrera, I believe.
Yes. That's right. You got that one completely
Heck
right.
of an artist, huh? But yeah, that one, I I was reading through it, and it seemed to have like a kind of tragic effect to it.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
like, ouch, this one hurt a little, touched
Yeah.
to the core a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Some of this was based on actually a dream. I had a dream that and I basically I a few years ago I started putting a dictaphone next to my bed, which is one of these little recording devices. So if I have an idea or a story or a dream or whatever, and I wake up, I can record into it quickly. It's quicker than a phone in my case. Plus, it puts them all into a little library for ideas and stuff. And yeah, I had this dream of like it being in the snow or something, and me trying to reach out to someone, and then realizing that way back at at this shelter or house or whatever it was in the snow, that I had to be back. It was a distraction for me to come all the way out here to get this person to help them, and realize that the real person was being taken over this way, being kidnapped. Now, I don't remember if it was like in my mind, if it was a dream, if it was my son, or if it was it was like it was a story in my mind. Maybe my dream was giving me the story, but I
Right.
saw it that way. So from that, I built the story around that, and I added the cannibals because I didn't know what the threat was exactly. So I had this whole idea of this dystopian kind of future, and again, there's so many of these little ones. Like this one I could imagine as a mini series. I could do 3 or 4 issues of that, and we could describe what happens in this, what put them in this situation that could happen at any time.
Right.
And we're thrown into that atmosphere of everything's gone, and and it's cold, and literally people are just living off of like survival, so
Yeah. The thing I picked up about it too was like people will abandon people when it comes to self-survival, and that was very entailed in the story. People always do the heroic, to the death of us, you're my, comrade. In a lot of stories, and this one was like, nope, deuces, I'm out of here. you know it's
I'm out.
like, yeah, that's more like it. That seems a little more realistic.
And
Yeah.
that's what people are like. I mean, to be honest, and again, that's in the writing, that's what you try to do. It's like, okay, we sim sympathize with the guy who's got a wife who's got a baby on the way. Okay, so we understand they can't wait too long. They've got to get somewhere, and they've got to move now. And they can't wait here because they don't have the resources, maybe not all the resources, to help that child, and they've got another plan. And meanwhile, they've had to wait due to their leader or whatever. So we at least sympathize on that side of it, but then we don't in the case of how they went about it, how they just kind of the guy over and left him there and took everything. And again, it's kind of tricky to sometimes write a story in a way that you can still sympathize with both parties, even if one comes off really harshly. Then you got to think that they've got an unborn child as well that they've got to think about. It's just a way of going about it. And in that case,
Yeah.
like you say, people do become like animals, even in that case, when it was in their inner circle in psychological sense. So, yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty savage. It was
Yeah.
very raw. And the part I do like about it is the retribution that entails in the story. It wasn't just like, damn, that's effed up. It was like, oh, I like the fact that there was some action taken. And not to
Yes.
give anything away, but sometimes a story, has a vengeful plot to it. And I'm glad that there was a story that, that had that element to it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I would think that we would see ourselves in that. That even it comes off maybe primal, even on the behalf of the hero. But who wouldn't do that? Who wouldn't attempt to do that for their kid? And
Yeah.
so I don't know if you have any images there. If not, I can show some pages from the book if you want to. Yeah, anything you got. Oh, there we go. Awesome. Yeah, great. See, this is where the cannibals. We could say some things. So basically, his son is kidnapped by these cannibals in the snow, and is set in the not too distant future. And it becomes a tale about him having to try and get back his son. I think that's at the core of the story, isn't it?
Yeah,
Um,
right there. It's like, he's looking out for his mom. She's like, I'm trying to warn you. Yeah.
right? Yeah, she's trying. And I like the fact. I don't know if you got the comedy part in that, but it's like there was a part in that he goes, like, man, we got to go. We can't wait for your mother anymore. We have to leave. And it's like, He goes, look, he goes, my mum's still alive. And she goes, she's a fucking trooper. She goes, she's 69 years old. Yeah, but she
Oh
kicked three
yeah,
guys' asses or something. As if to say she may be old, but she can definitely still kick someone's ass if need be. So,
yeah.
you know, yeah.
She's no pushover. Like she survived a lot, and she's gonna be okay now.
Yeah, and that was he was trying to tell him that we can she's gonna be here, you know, we just gotta wait a little longer. Then when she finally does show up, they've already fucked off. Um so yeah, that's also a mini little tragic part in there. They just waited a few moments later, then they would have had to do that. So
And that's that part that I stress about humans being so selfish that you know the outcome could have been a lot different and had they just been a little bit more loyal to each other and more committed to the cause.
yes, exactly. Yeah.
And that I guess that goes for a lot of scenarios in life, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
And then the fourth story, I feel like that one was trippy. Collect them all. Oh man. And that was illustrated by Rodel Nura,
Mhm.
colored by Alzir Alves, lettered by Maria Leticia Miribella. And that one's I say I felt it because a child was involved. You
Again,
know,
yeah. Yeah, exactly.
the child was involved in the story prior as well. Don't get me wrong.
I know it was, yeah, so it
So
makes you
anyway,
wonder which one tug on your heart, you know, like which one?
yeah, you gotta ask
So,
yourself, like, because it's like the last two stories, like, okay, this is hitting like anybody could get it, you know?
yeah,
There's no censorship, there's no boundary. It gets dark. And when it gets dark
yeah,
and when there's evil elements in the world, everyone's susceptible to, be a victim of such a thing.
yeah, mhm,
So this one, it was so twisting because it was one of her most trusted, loved people, you
yeah,
know, couldn't necessarily create a happy ending.
right,
It
right,
was so much larger than just their love. It was bigger than them.
yeah,
It was just too
yeah,
extreme.
yeah, and this is, we follow in this story a couple of groups of well, 2 groups of people, the people that work at the, Pirate Pete's, which is essentially like a Chuck E. Cheese. Again, this story is set in the 90s.
Yeah,
We follow the group of people there that are figuring out what's going on. And it all starts off with they get a phone call from a foreign country. They're trying to decipher what the person's trying to say, who's warning them about something that's been sent there.
right.
And meanwhile, we're also following from the very beginning, we're following a grandfather and his granddaughter and their bond, you know. And so, of course, once again, yeah, I'll put some, yeah, absolutely, put some images up there. There we go. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, and it's very touching. And again, we're following them. And I think with them as well, their love, you know, like he was willing to deal with what was about to happen for her. And I think it's a very beautiful, it's tragic, but beautiful, you know, story. And then also the other people that are involved separately. I like the way how this one ends, where there's like, in the sense, it's a government situation trying to come in. It's called Collect Them All because they're trying to collect all the people that are in this building when something's taken hold of the people in this building. And it's their job to basically make sure that no one escapes from there and that they're going to collect them all. That's why it's called Collect Them All. But it's also called Collect Them All because this story came from when I was a young dad and Chrissy was very young. I came across this old peel on tattoo, and it was like, oh, this peel on tattoo looks infected or something. It looks
Right.
like died, and like it looks like it's been out in the sun. And I'm thinking, I would not put that on my kid's arm. Like God knows what that would do. And I thought, oh. And then that's where it's like there's a story there, like something that gets
That's
inside your
why,
pores and
yeah,
takes over the whole inside. And really anything that's purpose like that can get into the skin. And I had this whole idea of like, what if there was this factory where something, an infection had caused all the items in this factory, and then they were sent out, and then it all, ended up being in a dispensary for children's toys with the
right.
stick-on tattoos and the gum and everything. And I thought, well, again, there's there's zombie stories and stuff like that, and yet there's still different ways of telling a story. So I thought, here's a really kind of a different way of telling a story. Again, could be a movie, could be like a Twilight Zone episode or something like that. That's different, And in all of that, though, it's always about caring about the characters. I try to make sure that the characters are likable and that we're following their journey because we want to follow what's happening to them and to see if they overcome the journey that they've been put into. But yeah, that final story's definitely had some good feedback.
Yeah, that one. The outcome was so chaotic. It's like,
Definitely a page turner, that one. I think I wanted to really end strong with that one.
yeah,
It's like if we thought the rest of the stories were good, wait until you get to this one. It's end on a
yeah,
high,
I had my holy sugar on the iced tea moments for sure.
Yeah, well,
And
you talking with me earlier on, I was like, "Oh, you got to read the last story. Like, you got to read that last story because, like,
yeah,
that's like a finale."
and you've been taking your work like with cons and events like throughout the year. I definitely like to hear more about it. I've been following for myself, but for the viewers and the listeners, like just
Yeah,
to get us, an idea of like how you've been out and about with your work.
yeah. I've tried to. I've gone to a few cons this year. Some of them I've just been attending just to check out to see what they were like for future, to see if it's somewhere that I'd like to maybe get a table at or something. Other ones I actually attended. So I did attend. WonderCon is a sister convention to specifically to San Diego Comic Con, the original Comic Con, and that's actually fairly local to me. So that had to be my at least go to because that's where I started. Actually, that was one of the first conventions I did about 3 years ago. And every year since, I've been trying to go to more conventions with a table on Artist Alley, other ones just to attend to see what they're about, if they're worth trying to go for. And that's really what this year was all about, really trying different places. The last one we actually did that was with the table was LA Comic Con. And yeah, so I actually had managed to make volume 2 in time for that. And volume 2 again, yeah, sold really well, was that we just say. And people that didn't know about the series were buying volume 1 as well, so that got sold out. So yeah, it went really well. Hope to do more next year. I'll see, maybe even try out of state, we'll see. So
Nice. And that's I mean we're at the end of the year now, so I think this coming year, there's so much more. You got a brand new book out, and there's more to come. And I also would like to ask you, we we love that series, Cover the Dead with Lime. And
oh
I
yeah.
know you've been kind of plating on like finding just a proper home for it so that you can continue where you started with it.
Oh man, I would love to. Yeah, I've been so busy really with completing Never by Night because it's not just something that hang on, let me get my cat. Sorry, he's meowing away. One second. Alright, cat, shush. Silly cat. He's a good cat, but he's very needy. Um so yeah, I've been busy with Never by Night. Most of the year because every story that you do, especially if it's the longer stories, can take 2 to 3 months, or you're working around different people's schedules. And even that last story I'd never done in that capacity before. the last story that we got done for volume 2, Never by Night, was actually Late Night Host, but I'd never done, literally, we were illustrating it and coloring it and lettering it all at the same time. Normally you do one when it's done, and then you go to the next one, and you go to the next one, and that's how it works. That's the easiest way to do it. But never simultaneously, like, okay, we got 3 pages of illustrated. Now you go, if you can illustrate, so if you can color that now, and then once they're colored, then we've got to letter it, and we just keep on moving, move. And we finally got it done in time, like literally 2 weeks before, and not only done, but then put in the system, printed, and sent all
Yeah.
within like a month or something. It was insane, but we got it done in time. But yeah, so I've been busy with that. But Color Dead with Lime, yeah, it has a place in my heart that we got some of the biggest feedback from that. We got critically, we got great reviews. And the readers really loved it. So I would love to complete that. So if anyone, I mean, I'm really looking for the right publisher for that.
Right.
And it's kind of a catch-22, because some publishers are like, oh, well, this has been published, so we only want something that hasn't been published. But then the catch-22 in that is, yes, 3 issues were published, but we didn't complete it, and people
Right.
want it. People want to see what happened. People want to see what's next, and it's really just down to what can we give with these new versions. We could do, like, if people want to jump back in, like yourself,
Right.
other people that really enjoyed it, then we'll produce different variant covers, but also maybe we'll throw in a few extra pages on the end, whether it be a short story, which I'd love to throw in, maybe a few, like an extra horror tale, or like a tale within that world, to entice them to want to re-get those first 3 issues, and
Right.
then go straight from where we were, straight back into where we were going to finish up nicely. It was originally going to
Yeah.
be 8 issues, but it could be 6 to 8 issues. And that way, also, anyone that's coming into it new can get the new version as well. But again, it's getting everyone. I'd love to get everyone in again that originally was reading it. So yeah, it's really
Right.
just down to finding the right home for it. So yeah.
With the, I guess, with the legalities of the publishers, how would a possibility of a graphic novel for the first 3 be possible, so that it can promote and usher in a new story? I know that sounds so far fetched, but it's
Oh,
just
no, not
throwing
at
the
all.
ideas out there.
No. We actually thought about that too, so maybe we could do both, because I mean, I would love to, probably like yourself, is you probably like this as well, like you want the issues so you can collect the collector's issues, right? So I would love for them, like the first 4 issues to be actual issues, and then make them be, again, completely exclusive, and they'll be great in their own right, and with different covers, with limited edition versions. And then we could either do a trade paperback of that first half, and have all 4 in a trade paperback, and then do the next 4 issues, then 5, 6, 7, and 8, and then do the second part in a trade paperback, or do the whole 8 issues and then do that big old. It would be massive, but it'd be pretty awesome, to see it in this big,
Right.
massive trade paperback. I mean, it's one thing to have 2 parts, but it was never supposed to be parts anyway. But it'd be even better to have all 8 issues in this big, massive book. That'd be awesome. So
Yeah, and
we'll see.
imagine like concept art in the back, and the
Oh
alternate
yeah,
cover,
nice.
variant covers in the back, little bit of your forward and things like that. That would be
Yeah.
fantastic, man.
Would be those variants alone. Like, I think that was the annoying thing about all of that, because it's not something I wanted to stop or pause. We would have completed that, but it's just the way that we were treated with that. And otherwise, we would have completed that. Because I still, to this day, when we go to conventions, people that did read it were like, "Hey, when's the next issue coming out?" And it's like, "Well, this happened," and I basically had to pause that altogether and get my rights back. And I was so happy I at least got my rights back. So if I didn't, that would have been a worse situation. So at least I managed to sort that out. And now, yeah, so it's now finding somewhere that will respectfully just give it what it's deserved, and for us also to get paid for doing that. That was the main problem. They didn't pay us. So, yeah.
Yeah, that sucks ass. I just gotta say it. At
Yeah,
least
absolutely.
I think you had a better situation with Blood. Was it Blood Moon? When you brought your work with them, I think they were a little bit more honorable.
Oh no, actually, funny enough, it was them, the ones that didn't.
Oh crap!
They were the cover the dead with limes. Yeah, and they're no longer since Diamond Distribution kind of went bankrupt. A lot of independent publishers went down after that because Diamond really is great for the big two, Marvel and DC and everything, because they've got enough money they can shoulder that. There's no problems. But with the independent publishers, when Diamond goes down, that's difficult for a lot of people. And a lot of people have had to skirmish during all of that. And some are literally either they've stopped, ended themselves, or on hiatus. And that sucks. I mean, because end of the day, it should be just about, again, major companies when it should be about, you've always got to have room for independent publishers and independent comic writers and artists as well. And in all of this, ironically, Image, even though they were the essential first publisher to be for creators,
Yeah,
they're big up there with Marvel and DC. Like, they don't have any problem in any of this. Like, literally, Done went down, but they're still going to be in every comic store in the world,
right.
So they're not. They're in the highest spectrum of, if you even call that, independent comic publishers. I wouldn't even say that they were still there, because you're up there with the big guns. So I wouldn't say that you're still on the level with indie publishers. It's no Diamond Distribution going bankrupt was no threat to them. Let's put it that way. So when you've got that much, that many people behind you, if it's no threat to you, then you're not worried about it. Where other independent publishers, and there's so many, and so many great ones, have suffered from that. So
Yeah,
yeah, Blood Moon actually went down after that, which I don't mind too much, because
right.
yeah, they screwed a lot of people. Not just me; they screwed pretty much everyone. So
Yeah, I feel like that's a very karmatic thing. You don't do right by people, and then when right doesn't get done by you, don't be too surprised. You know how
exactly.
the universe
Yeah.
works on you. you know,
Yeah, well,
but
that's the sad thing in all of this, is that you had publishers that didn't deserve that. You had publishers that really were good to people and just wanted to put out art. They wanted to put out great stuff, and they got screwed in the bankruptcy of Diamond. But in that case, yeah, that was pretty karmic, because yeah, all I wanted to do was continue the series, and basically, if the if they'd paid each issue, uh, it would have basically paid for each other issue that we were producing to come out. But because they didn't pay us at all, we basically didn't give them issue 4. It was like, well, no, we're going to hold on to this, and you're not
right,
going to have it. So that's that.
yeah, they
Yeah.
effed up a good thing, to be honest. So I'm a little bitter about that.
Yeah, a
But
lot of people.
you know,
Yeah.
we, we were excited about it. We were loving the series. Who's to say?
I remember you did an art piece. I remember you did a fan art piece, and it was a great. I every once
Yeah,
in a while when I'm reeling through all my pictures to put out and stuff like that, I come across that and I remembered that. It's like, so that's great. Like, man,
yeah,
like, to be in a situation you made a comic where people have actually done art and stuff as well, and it was good. It was a good piece too, man. So
yeah. The beheading
yeah, that's
with
great.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it was
that
cool.
was fun
Yeah.
too. Anytime you ever need like a alternate, variant or art piece, I'd be happy to partake in that.
Yeah, man.
Pretty
Yeah,
too.
absolutely.
And then you also have your merch line along with your titles.
I do. Yeah, yeah. So I've got yeah, we got t-shirts out at the moment. I've been showing them, really, they're all on my site there. We've got 2 designs for volume 1, 2 designs for volume 2. Um, if people want to get a T-shirt to do with Never By Night, there's some really great imagery. I've got a couple here I can quickly show. This is the classic original volume 1. This is a big seller with the dead bodies on the cover there. So
Yeah.
that's a cool piece. And we got all sizes. We got large, medium, extra large, extra large. And then the latest one, I think I've got it here somewhere. Well, this is one of them. This one's from Late Night Hosts. A bit of body horror scare there. That's volume 2.
Ah.
That one there, you can see it's pretty brutal. Yeah, so yeah, I think you might have a link for that. I'm not sure if you have a link or not for that, but otherwise, if people want to just,
I can show it.
yeah, oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah, and just contact us, and I can get sizes, and then just send them out manually. Do it that way until I get a website, probably.
Okay, but also you could contact Jonathan Chins directly on his IG for these items as well, and then some. Like you can ask him about upcoming events, upcoming material. You can ask him about this material that he has out now, like the content that he has currently going right here on his IG page.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, nice. Yeah, my Instagram is definitely the best place to find me for anything that's coming out currently, any events coming up, any new books, anthologies. One right there is Horror Not Hate. That's a new anthology. I've got a story in there. That one there, yeah. So there's a new story in that. That's going to be pre-launching. It's on pre-launch at the moment. That's going to be on Kickstarter soon. I've got another one out there. See, look, that's a pretty brutal cover right there. Pretty awesome.
It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I was also had a story in Pots and Panels, which is another anthology. It's probably way down the list, so don't worry about that. But that's a big book. A lot of stories in that one. My story is actually next to Steve Niles on that one, which is the guy that wrote 30 Days of Night and made that into a movie. So yeah, I think it's pretty far down on this. That's okay, but
oh, check out the shirt.
yeah. Well, that's Del Barris. So he is the illustrator from If I Never Come Back, and he did the story Scattershot in the Permadeath book. And this guy is a veteran, man. He is an unsung legend. You know, maybe you don't know him yet, but you will do. Maybe I want people to know about him before, it's too late, because this guy's been around since the early 80s. He's illustrated for Conan the Barbarian, Spider-Man, Blue Beetle. Shit, he even did horror comics back in the day. He did Fright Night. He did Eclipse. He's done most of the titles from back in the day. He's semi-retired, but he still does comics. But he also was a storyboard artist for X-Men, G.I. Joe, Transformers, friggin' Fantastic Four, GM, like you name it, childhood cartoons. He was a storyboard artist for it. So, and here's actually some new information. I'm going to be signing at Golden Apple October 29th at the end of this month, the last comic book day before Halloween, and Del Barris is going to be with me. That guy I was just talking about. So he's going to be there signing with me.
Oh, that's cool beans right there. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's something else I want to ask you about is of course your upcoming events. That you
Yeah.
have
So that's
listed.
the main one. I mean, that's for me. That's Golden Apple is like you hear about. That's been around for a long time. Celebrities go there to get comics, and you're like, that's so surreal. I mean, literally, who is it? Keanu Reeves has gone there, Samuel Jackson, Peter Weller, who's RoboCop. So how cool is that? Just that alone. But they have different writers signing there and creators and stuff. So I'm actually quite honored to be there signing with Del Barris on October 29th. And if you want to get a last minute horror anthology just in time for Halloween, I'm going to be there on that comic book day on October 29th. So hope to see you there.
Oh, that's fantastic. And then as the time keeps going, you're just gonna keep pumping out new content new, exciting future projects?
Oh yeah, I mean, even right now, is I've just done this, and it's still the month of Halloween. I'm currently now like I've written a couple of scripts already for volume three, but then that's the whole thing, is going out there and actually creating them, producing them. Um, and then actually, I've got other projects in the pipeline as well. I'm trying to get going. So I was just talking the other day about this one called Moonlit Palms. It's going to be published with Critical Entertainment, and we're going to do a Kickstarter for that. So it's going to be a one-shot horror book. Damien Philippe, who's the colorist on Cover the Dead with Lime, and he also did some covers. You probably remember some of those creepy ass covers with the zombie face. It was all like you could see all the details of it. So he's an artist in his own right. He's going to be doing the illustrating and the coloring and everything, and I'm going to be writing it and storyboarding it and everything. So Moonlit Palms, it's going to be about a 50 to 60 page one shot book. It's a horror tale. And then separately, that one I want to try and get a Kickstarter for on that. And then separately, I'm also going to be trying to do a mini series with a man called Henry Munoz, who's of the Ohlone tribe. And if you actually look up on Google, online, or whatever, there's only a certain amount of existing Ohlone tribe people left. And he reached out to me when he read Boy Conquer the Mountain graphic novel I did with Heavy Metal. And he said, I'm looking for someone to work with. I want to tell the stories of the Ohlone people. And I was so honored that he wanted me to be involved with that. And funny enough, my wife, who's no longer with us, my wife was, she's mixed, black, Latino, but she was also Cherokee. And then when she was little, she used to do powwows, and she told me all about them. When and she said, "Well, one day we'll have to do them." And then we had our son and everything, and I thought, you know what an honor that would be for me to go to a powwow, because she always intended that to do that. So I took my son to Henry's powwow with the Ohlone people, which was in Pomona. And we first met in person a couple years ago. And get this, it was his 29th birthday, and it was the 29th annual powwow. And it was on like March 29th. There's a lot of 29th. And I thought, oh, it's going to be something special that we're making here, I think, you know? And the
Yeah,
thing is about these stories is that they would be based on the true stories of the Ohlone people, myths, tales, both tragic, beautiful, from different times, uh, modern, past, way back past, and we won't hold back. It'll be unflinching. It'll be beautiful, but it'll be tragic. It'll be haunting. It'll be fantastical. There'll be different stories, and I think it's so important to tell their stories, just like any tribe stories, where there is a possibility of there needs to be a legacy. You know, like there's one thing to make books, and that's great, but also what's beautiful about tribes and native peoples and the stories that they have is in the adornments that they make and create, and the things that they wear, and all these things that go back hundreds of
yeah,
years. One thing to read about it or write about it, or see maybe pictures of, but to see that hasn't been done, I know of, in full color in a comic book, to see all that imagery as well, to
yeah.
visualize it.
And we're
So
used to
this
this.
is something.
This
Yeah,
because
yeah.
actually
So yeah, you go.
elaborate a lot on such a topic that's not discussed, which is indigenous, native tribes out here. You could do a
Right.
lot with that. You could get them involved, like people involved with their community, foregoings, and a lot of exposure could be achieved through your work with them.
That's what we were thinking, actually. So we'd love to get a grant for that, or and or a Kickstarter going for that, because it's on so many different levels. It's not only, it brings awareness to people, it brings awareness to people of all ages, to the comic book community, but also it's for them as well, for their generation, young all the way through to adult um, generations, to have something aside from books, possibly end up in libraries and comic stores and continue the history. And to have that history not be eliminated, to disappear. What an honor it is to be a part of that. We'd have basically different stories with different artists, and also there's going to be art pieces done by the Ohlone tribe people. There's going to be different native art in the middle of the book as well, and so, and this would be something that not just for comic stores, for bringing awareness to people learning about it, but also we would go to powwows, we would go to festivals, we would bring those. So we'd be spreading that around for people to be aware of what we were doing, and that. So yeah.
That's a very noble cause, if you ask me. And on top of that, it could help do a lot of salvaging um, for a legacy,
Yeah, that's
especially a
it.
younger group, the younger ones that might not have such a connection with their roots and their ancestry, that the book
Yeah,
itself could give them an identity and want them to have
exactly.
more involved with such a thing, do with an outlet such as comic and book.
Exactly.
That and that
Exactly. That's what we were thinking. That we're bringing something inspiring to people of all ages, but again, younger people. That books can be boring. I mean, like growing up. I mean, it took me a while to get into books. I mean, I do love books and stories, and movies. I think visually was the thing for me, and that's why I got into filmmaking and stuff. But comic books is a whole other thing, and now more than ever, comic books are popular and being adapted into other mediums as well, for all ages, and they're also being respected finally as well, not just for kids but for everyone. But to reach people in that way, where maybe there've been, oh, it's just mum and dad going on with all the stories, and oh, I'm so bored, or no, like to reach for a comic book for something different than just mum and dad talking about it, or the family that you're around all the time. Not to say that they're not being respectful, but it's one thing to grow up in it and you get to that certain age where you want to rebel or something like that, and then you
right.
read in a comic book something that and if it hits in some way. And the good thing is, as you've been reading with Never by Night and things like that, um, maybe my horror stories aren't always like other people's horror stories or other horror comic books. I do tend to want to always put something of expression, but also an emotional element that can be relatable or make it be likable for the characters. So for me, doing this story, these stories with the Aloni series that we've been working on together, we'd be touching upon that, and yeah, so yeah.
That's very awesome. And for you to elaborate on that and share it with us,
Oh,
didn't see that one coming, and that's like I'm looking forward to hearing or seeing more about that as it comes into fruition.
yes, yes. So I think we're going to kickstart that. It's going to be 2026, I think, at this point, but we're going to be gathering up more information on that and getting that going. But something like that is, I love doing horror stories and that. Like, it's definitely my go-to. It's always fun and playful, and but also going to be thought provoking. But with stuff like that, that's definitely special to me. And Henry Munoz, these are his stories. They're from his people, from his times and history and everything. So for me, it's just a case of he's telling me these stories, and we're working together, like to bring that in a visually appealing and entertaining way. Um, and I'd like to think that because I've done comic books, working with him, together, we're creating something here. Like, I'll take the story that you've been saying and let's put that in how I can do it in a comic book. So I'll
Right.
take what he's saying and turn those, into, okay, when I do a pages of comic books, those panels are literally like your shots in a movie. So it's like, okay, so it's going to be, this is how it's going to look from what you've said. And, the dialogue, is that okay? And want to make sure everything's, genuine as well. And that everything is taken into account. And also making sure that we can make it as focused as possible, each story being something completely different as well.
Right. And
Yeah.
I can imagine like in due time, like one of these stories, we're gonna be flicking on a streaming service and it's gonna be a story by Jonathan Chance, you know?
Wouldn't that be cool? Yeah, yeah, that'd be awesome.
See
We'll
it coming.
see.
Yeah, possibilities are endless, you know, and I'm glad you're out there just putting more work out into the world that we can enjoy and, or and that you stay inspired.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Yeah, there's always something to write about, I think, like, and you have to grab them because um it's always good to write them down or to record them on an audio or something, because there are times every once in a while you're like, like, I'm not feeling anything right now. I'm feeling a little numb. It's like the world's kind of a little crazy right now, a little crazy. It's really fucking crazy.
Oh yeah.
Um, so it's like, so, where do you find inspiration or something? And I found with this, when I record stuff on this dictaphone, I would hear all these recordings of me at different times, like one 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 6 months, 3 months, or whatever. And it actually gets me excited hearing them. So, oh, I completely forgot about that story, or I forgot about that idea, or I can elaborate on that now. That can be improved. Or so it gets me excited if I get to that situation where if I do feel uninspired or whatever, that's something that I can do. But most of the time, stuff just comes, or there's enough craziness going on in the world that you can do a horror tale that can make you think from it. So yeah.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about that. Like
Yeah.
I've been getting my I have a story too. I just haven't completed it. I don't have
Okay.
a writer's direction, but I would probably definitely have a powwow with you if I was ever to take into, further account. But yeah, like until then I'll just be enjoying the stories like that you keep coming out with and keep a
Oh, that's
lookout.
awesome, man. Well,
Let the people know as far as like how to reach you and you know any upcoming things that you would like everyone to know about, but aside from what you already mentioned, um,
yeah, I think, well, you can reach me on Instagram, Jonathan_Chance. That's where all the new updates really are. That's my main social media that I really pump out all the current things that I'm doing, comics, panels, imageries, cons, where I'm going to be next. The closest thing we've got coming up is basically in a couple of weeks, which is October 29th. That's going to be at Golden Apple. If you can attend that, or tell anyone that's into horror or Halloween to be there, and we'll be signing there. I'll be signing there with Del Barris, the illustrator from Never by Night Volume 1. And we're going to have a great time doing that. And if, on top of that, I've also got, like I said before, I'm part of Horror Not Hate, which is another horror anthology that's from J.M. Brandt. That's a different anthology altogether. I've got
oh,
other things coming out in 2026 really now. So,
nice.
yeah.
Sounds like a nice body of work to look forward to, and a lot of things that the fans could follow up with you and stay entertained with.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And you know what you were saying about your story you were just saying about? Man, I want to hear more about that too. Like if it's going to be a book, if it's going to be a comic book or whatever, like I'm all about, wanting to know. I've been finding sometimes um, the pattern I've been finding either at cons sometimes or even with some podcasters and stuff, that you guys are incredibly creative as well. Like it's not just, it's amazing that you're championing and supporting, independent creators and that, and we could, forever thankful for that. But also that you guys are creators too, and it's a case of
Right.
just letting your shit out there. We know how I know personally what it's like to you're working hard and you're also, balancing work, life, family, and all that, and then finding time to jump back into stuff that you really want to get out as well. That can be
Yeah.
a hard thing to do, and to get into that, not only to jump back into it, but to get into it enough to then get to a nice flow, and then
Yeah.
stay in that flow, get the magic made, and not have distractions as well. And life in general, the phones, everything and anything is so
Yeah.
distracting. We're filled with distractions everywhere today, and yet we still have to find some way or means to still put out a message, put out our art.
Yeah, we try to emphasize like where our current strengths are, and then get discouraged to put more time into one thing when you're trying to secure another thing. And it's like
Get
if I put
them
too much time in this, I might fall on my feet on what I have currently going on, and
right.
it's sometimes it's excuses. We get discouraged as creatives, and we just don't push it or don't feel the want to bring more of the story abroad. And sometimes those stories require research, the unfun
That's
stuff,
true.
like the character fillers, the areas that you're writing about, to know more about it so that it makes sense, like that's an
Mhm.
actual area. It could be as boring as a grandfather's half heritage, and you got to delve into that because it's kind of pivotal to the story of where it took place and what time era what it was at.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
so
Yeah.
many things. Yeah, you're like, oh, I have time. I'll do it next week, and the next week turns into next year before you know it.
I know, I know. I believe it or not, I do know what you mean, and anything that revolves any type of research. I mean, a bunch of these stories, thankfully, I could just write because they're coming from my mind, and you have basic knowledge of those things. It's more about characters anyway. But there are certain things where you do have to research. Like I had a horror script called Directory, and I'd love to make that into a film one day, and I planned to at one point, but we got into comic books, but I plan to get back to that. But the whole period is set in the 1930s. You have to look up shit. Like, did they have refrigerators back then? No, they
Right,
didn't. And
right,
it's like just basic stuff like that. Like, is complete. Like, you that would require literally one person's job at least knowing all that information to tell you, oh, this wasn't around, that wasn't around, this wasn't around. So I looked up and it's like, okay, did anyone have a TV back then? I was like, no, only the very, very, very rich.
right.
Like the only a certain few. I even researched deep dive so much that I found out apparently like two people had a TV in Essex, which is the place where I grew up, in England in the 1930s. So it's like, okay, well, one of these people is very, very rich, let's just say, and
Right.
he's got a TV. Otherwise,
Right.
everyone else has got a radio. So yeah, research is so important, and it's what I invested in, and it didn't cost too much money, and I would suggest it to anyone. Um, get a whiteboard, right? I put it up on my wall, and it's really great to just have like, okay, what's going on in my mind right now? Put it on that frigging whiteboard, and you can make sense of it. And it's just like a comic book is tangible. Once it's on there, at least it's out of your mind. You're not going to forget it. It's right there, and you can remind yourself, okay, this day or this time or this day, I can do research, and this day I can write for 20 minutes, at least try to write for 15, 20 minutes. And this day I can do, what I mean? And once it's out there, it's not just on a calendar on your phone, everything's on your phone. And that's
Yeah.
cool, but it's also everything distracting is on there as well. So if you
Oh,
have it on
great
something
point.
that's not distracting, you've got it on something else altogether. It's on your wall there. Every time you go to make a coffee, there it fucking is looking at you saying,
Yes.
when are you gonna get back to me? So
Right.
a whiteboard is a great thing to have, and that's
That's
what
a
I
great idea.
think that's what's motivated me a lot more. I got it a year or two ago, but it's been really great for me this year, and I've just been marking things off. So even when you think, oh, I didn't get this done, I didn't get that done, you can look at that, all the things you've lined off. It's
Yeah.
like, fuck, I did actually manage to do half the things I tried to do. So even when we feel discouraged, so I didn't get this done, I didn't get that done, you can at least look at that whiteboard and realize, well, shit, I got at least half those things done. And
Yeah.
before that, they were things that weren't done, and now they are. So, it really is how you look at things, it really is. So it makes you feel good about yourself to know that you at least get some things done and find the time to do them, and you can do it. You can do it.
Yeah, I think you gave me an idea. Because I store everything up here, and I tend to clash with a lot of forget me nots and forget and
Oh
forgot.
man,
You know
you gotta write them down.
how
Yeah,
to manage it, and
definitely.
I think having it in front of me might help me prioritize or help me speed up one thing to get to
Yes,
the other, and
yes.
totally blank out forgetful stuff. It's like I'm glad
Yeah,
I had that right there to
and that's the
navigate.
reason why I also, like I say, record on that dictaphone thing, because I've got whole ideas I completely forgot about. Thank God that I recorded it at a time and I can just forget about it because it's there. It's not forgotten. It's in the little vault, a separate brain, basically. And
Mhm.
then the whiteboard there, like, again, you could prioritize even with colors or star systems or shapes or whatever, and just be like, okay, this is essential for this week. This shit has to be done. Even just the monotonous shit that just has to be done, like fucking laundry or tasks or bills or whatever, in
Yeah,
one section, and then the other stuff. What can I do this week? I've got to do one creative thing this week at least for
yeah,
like half an hour, and then you can increase that maybe as the more time that things open up and you've got other shit done, and you can mark them all off and then feel at least a little bit better about yourself doing it. So, yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I'm inspired already just from this interview. Like just to jump
Oh,
back into
great,
this
man.
because it's about 60% done.
That's
So
great, man. That's
you know,
fantastic.
but it ain't about me today. So I'll definitely, I'll hit you behind the scenes and let you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
But
it's important that I just wanted to get into that as well because I don't want it to be, I don't know, I'm interviewing with you in that, but I do realize that oftentimes that people are creative or the things that whatever they're passionate about. I'm passionate about this, and you mentioning that, I knew that there was something there, and I wanted to talk about it more about it with you so
yeah,
that let's
I
get it
appreciate.
out there, let's talk about it. And it's because it's passion is so essential. I think
Yeah, a
passion,
lot of people don't
love,
don't
yeah,
empathize, you know, and that's
yeah.
a great thing. I appreciate that a lot.
No, I genuinely believe that. Again, I said about my wife passing away. Two main things that got me through that was my son and um, passion. I think for finding passion in what you love and telling stories. To me at the time, I was a filmmaker beforehand, and I thought, you know what, I'll get my stories out in a different way, and I don't have to abide to anyone else. If I screw up, I screw up, but at least I'm doing it myself, and I'm going to try to do this. And at least that's something I can try to accomplish myself, and I kept
Yeah,
trying and just kept going at it. But I found that anything that you're passionate about, you've got to not suppress that. Like, it's so
yeah,
essential. We can be in the monotonous day in, day out, day in, day out. Everything's like a loop. And I know these things have to be done and we have to pay for bills and everything like that. But once we feed that stuff, man, it fills us up. And I think that's
yeah.
what it's about.
That's
We
a very
need to
powerful
know that.
mindset. It is.
Hmm.
Most people are 9 to 5ers and are afraid to break that mold. So, like for just like what you just said, the
Yeah.
passion and to be able to feed that and to thrive off of it, bring it into existence. That's a powerful thing in my book because I'm still
Yeah.
like 9 to 5er, but I manage a little small thing on the side. But to have it full blown, like where I'm finding creators like you and becoming fans, that's powerful to me. That's very
Yeah.
impactful.
Yeah. And it's the thing, like, even as at the cons, I mean, yes, it's not. I'm not there, like where hundreds of people are lining up to you know sign comics that like the writer of Spider-Man did or whatever. And I know across, internationally, everyone knows this person and people are lining up through the roof. They've come there specifically to see them. So I'm nothing like on that level yet, but just to reach people that are either aware, and I found out two or three people did just come to get the book, and they knew I was there because through an interview like this, which was amazing to me. And then to discover that people that didn't know about it now know about it. And not only that, but they love what I'm doing or trying to put out. And that's where it all starts. If just a few people here and a few people there, and if that's grassroots, then, I think that's what matters. It's, and then I think I'd rather have real supporters and friends and people that are passionate about, reading what I'm trying to put out, but also even finding something in themselves as well. I think that's what it's about. Like everything, like if we feed our passions, I think we find that we get to a point of what I love about doing comic books is it's like it feeds a part of me is like when you're a kid, like when you watch that horror movie for the first time, or the first time you draw something and it comes out like so great. You're like, oh, I'm so proud of this. And I don't know why it seems like when we become adults that we have responsibilities that we can't still be like kids in that way. Like I think that yes, we're adults and we have responsibility, of course, blah blah blah, and it's boring. But that's but let's feed that part of us, and dreams don't stop. I think people think that you get to a certain age, oh, I can't do this anymore, or maybe I'm too old for that. That's all society bullshit. I think that we set such high standards for, like, oh, you have to do this by 21, you have to do this by 30. And I think you have to say, fuck all that. And you do what you can try to do until your last breath. I think that's what it is. As long as it doesn't put you in danger and you're physically okay to do what you can, try to get it done, and you hear about, what is it, Sir Ian McKellen? Man, I think he'd been doing theatre for years, which is one thing. But can you imagine how long it took for him when he finally became Gandalf? I think he was like 53 or in his 50s or whatever. He'd done some acting in between that, but he was bit parts and things. So it just goes to show you, if you don't give up and you keep driving in on that passion that you have within you, or whatever gift that you have, and you have more than one. Everyone thinks you only have maybe one, but you have many. It's just keeping at it. I think that's the key, and you can get there.
Yeah, the consistency is probably, no matter who you are, what you're doing, that part is so powerful, because you'll always see someone like, how the hell did they do it? And the
I
secret
know.
recipe was consistency. Like that's
Most
where
of the time.
jealousy comes into fruition with a lot of people, because they're upset that someone with less talent or qualifications exceeded them. And it's because they kept at it, and the world is, it's just attracted to people who keep on, doing
Right,
their,
right.
and that's
I mean, let's be
the,
fair. There are people that do get shit, and
yeah,
it is unwarranted. And you're like, what the fuck? I mean, let's
absolutely.
be honest. Some people there are out there, and you're like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, this person's 22
Oh,
years old, and
every time I
and
watch
he's doing
reality and
the,
garbage and a lot of stuff, I'm like,
it's
how? Why?
it's trash influences and toxicity through the
Yeah.
roof. And but the thing is, though, like, it's like child actors or something like that. Like, how many child actors actually make it out of that and actually are healthy people, healthy adults even,
Right.
And so, would you really rather have their life? I would.
Nah.
Like, as tough
A lot of them,
as
yeah.
tough as your life may be, it's your life though, and you're working hard at it. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm freaking human. I will see people be like, "How the fuck did this person end up in Image Comics, dude? Like, this writing sucks,
Right.
or this art is shit. The cover looks great, but then once again, I open the comic up and the art is again. But that's my point of view, of course, and that's it may not be fact, but when you've made a few comics, I'd like to think I have an idea of what makes a good comic, or at least doing art college for 3 years. I know what makes what's good art, you know. So sometimes it really is who you know, and that
Yeah,
sucks. Sometimes
absolutely.
it is in a sense nepotism and stuff like that. And I'm not going to be all negative against that. I think they're getting enough hate as it is on that stuff. But that is a thing.
That's
But as
definitely a
long
thing.
as yeah, it is. But as long as, I mean, if there is talent there, then prove that. If you can prove you have talent, okay, yes, you've made it through the front door easier than anyone else did. But if there's talent there, then okay. But if there's not, that's where I have a problem. It's like,
Yeah,
well, shit, like, why is this person getting the opportunity? But having said that, if this is the journey we have to take, you know, we have to work hard at it. But like you said, consistency, that is really the factor here. If you've really got what it takes and you're really trying at it, nothing can stop you. I mean, you really can just, you are determined. If you're a force, you can get there. You can definitely get there. It may be
yeah,
harder for you
like
than
an
other
unseen
people, but
force,
you
you know,
can get there.
that
Yeah.
unseen force that like law of attraction, like it just starts gravity. But sometimes it
Yes.
takes way longer than you would like to think, and it can easily deter
Right.
you into a very unmotivated mood when it's not growing momentum. And it's that magic behind it, like getting past that
Yeah.
wall. That's where it's at.
Exactly.
And I'm
Exactly,
hoping,
man. Yeah, like you said, law of attraction, like you say. I mean, what is the difference between someone that doesn't try very hard, it seems like anyway, and they have all these things? There are just cases like that. I don't know why.
yeah, they have
There
a
shouldn't
machine,
be.
you know, a lot of times they have a machine or it's
Mm.
like-minded people that's already established that, you know, that's their club. You know, it's like
Yeah, see,
joining
that's the thing.
a club.
People really are born into it, or it is clubs, and we have all that in. You have that in the film industry, you have it in the music industry, you have it in the comic book industry. I mean, it really is a club situation stuff, which can be really annoying and frustrating. But as long as you put your head down and basically don't be defined to any type of genre or whatever you would call that, you know, let's say that's a genre, you know, where it's a club of people, and you're just doing your own thing, and you're determined to keep your head down. Um, it will stand the test of time too, because you also don't want to be, again, we were talking about these influences, that how long is that going to last for? It might last for a little bit, but it might not last forever, because there's always going to be a new flavor. Plus those people are going to
Yeah,
grow up. So if you're making idiotic videos, you know, save your money, let's put it that way, because
yeah,
it's not going to be around forever, especially the way that people are blown through money as well.
right.
So I think there is still pride in what you do. There's pride in what you do, and trying hard at it. And I think all of that will, imagine that, like having something to stand by that, you've built over time, you know, and leave behind. I think that's it, whatever that may be. So
Organic, you know, it all came from the source versus a lot of artificial aesthetics. So once you already have that and you started with it tapped in, you could always recreate and no matter what happens where or something falls flat or flourishes, you still
right,
have that because you always have had it, you know, versus
right.
people trying to prop it up for you and then you know once people leave something that's going on that doesn't go too well, it's almost like you feel powerless. But the person that is
Mhm.
creative can find that power within that source versus
Oh
someone who,
yeah.
you know, a little help. Just
Right, right, exactly. I also wanted to say, I was almost going to forget, but the you created a mug for us, but never by night, and people really dug that. So we're going to have to. I think by the time 2026 comes around, we're going to have to think about maybe collaborating on getting a Never by Night mug out together. Wouldn't that be cool?
yeah, all we gotta do is get the little gears together the best way to get it to the people, and
That's the
I always
thing.
make sure
Yeah,
that we
safely.
make each and every one equally as high quality. You know, those are small things
Yeah.
that take a step once we get that ball bouncing, and that could definitely be a possibility. Like I'm all for it, and I'm excited about
Yeah,
it.
I've already got a few people that they saw my mug there and they were like, "Oh, I want one." It's like, well, shit, I don't think you'll get it in time for Halloween, but I wanted to see what people thought of it. But I loved how it turned out, and I think the way that you did that there with the panels all on the mug, and the fact that it looks like a comic book on a mug with all the creepy imagery and stuff, I think it
Yeah,
was a really good touch.
so and we could also do like a promo, like where a lucky winner gets something. You know,
Oh, yeah, it's a great idea. Yeah,
just
so we'll have to definitely talk more about that for the next volume.
heck yeah. So there's so many possibilities. I'm an artist. I'm like I color like so anything that like you need me on board for, I'm so for it. You know,
Oh, that's
uh,
awesome, man. That's
like
great, man. Yeah.
I want you to keep pumping out these fantastic stories, these great ideas, and I want everybody that's watching to follow Jonathan Chance on his social networks, on websites, support, get the book, enjoy the stories like I'm enjoying them and many others are. And let's keep this momentum going.
Yeah. Cheers, man.
Cheers. Peace and
Cool.
love, John. And I'll be in contact with you behind the scenes.
Okay, man. Thanks so
All
much for
right.
having me on the show, dude.
For sure. Everybody, this is Edge of Vegaverse, Big Vega with Jonathan Chance. And we will be launching it off. And we're getting out of here right now, but stay in tune. And how the
See
hell are
everyone.
we? Oh, yeah. And